What's up, everybody? Myself and Conor said today we'd sit down and we'd have a little chat around VAR because it's going to be implemented in the Premier League from this season. It scares the shit out of me to talk about this, to discuss what the state of the officiating is going to be like, but I think it's only right that we do sit down and have a little chat about it. And Conor, sorry, what? No, it was using the Champions League final 6, so you're right, absolutely spot on about that one. It knocked Man City out, it did, you're right. It did, absolutely, and we beat Spurs in the final. You're correct, well in. Great points, well made.
He's very good panellist.
As 60 has said, Conor, it was used in the Champions League, but I want to rewind it back a little bit to the World Cup, which is kind of the first place where we've seen VAR implemented, and I want to get what your take was on that.
Yeah, I thought it was good for some things, like it kind of added a bit more drama to it, like whether calls were good or not, but like it slowed down the game way too much. It's a great idea in theory, but it doesn't work quick enough. And
the funny thing is, from my point of view, I actually think the World Cup was probably the best implementation of VAR I've seen so far, and it still wasn't good enough. The handballs were a farce when it came to the World Cup, and one thing that I keep talking about here is if you look at a foul or you look at a handball slowed down, it's going to look worse. It's going to look infinitely worse. Than I think with handballs, everything should be played at full speed. Yeah, like I said, everything it looks so more deliberate. Like if you see someone's hand going like that, but in a split second that's just that. Like it's not the same thing. Like I said, in quick motion, ball's coming straight at him, he slightly lifts his arm, but he's not going to be able to do anything. Like we're not talking about blatant situations obviously, like Sissoko pointing one way and being a fucking gobshite. Yeah, obviously not that blatant. The champions, you were there, you were present, yeah, for that moment. That was, to me, that was pretty cut and dry as a handball. But going back to the World Cup, it was kind of the first, as I said, the first big tournament we've seen. It was used in the Confederations Cup, I think, and a few other little bits and pieces. Now, it's coming to the Premier League this year, and one thing that immediately popped into my head when I thought about this was the amount of times I've heard people on BT or Sky or whatever it was saying, oh, that was a handball in the Champions League, but that won't be a handball next season in the Premier League. That confusion already is doing my head in. And we haven't even got to the really complicated stuff. Like, I thought we were playing the same sport. It's football. Why is it different between competitions or between country? It's football. Football is football. Same rules, same laws. I think there is some type of a rule change that's coming across the board, but even at that, I still think it's up to each individual league as to how, or FA, as to how they implement certain aspects of it. I think La Liga as well have VAR in. It's been used in Italy. It's been used. There was one incident I remember. I can't remember if it was Italy or Germany. The teams were in the dressing room for half time, and the ref called them back out for an incident. I think to give a penalty, and like literally marched their asses out of the change room after 3 or 4 minutes. It, then went back in again. Back in again, yeah. What's the point? No, it's an absolute farce. Like an absolute farce. There are some things that I can understand. We spoke earlier on about goal line technology before we start recording, and I've yet to see somebody that has anything negative to say about goal line technology because it's infinite. Yeah, it's different in VAR because VAR has so many different calls could be contentious or like even when you look at it 10 times you can still debate it. But like goal line technology, the ball is either over line or it's not. It's fairly straightforward. Obviously, I meant definitive because infinite and definitive are definitely the same word. But it is, yeah, it's a system that's measured. It's a system that we've seen used in tennis and other sports. Although I know it's different to Hawkeye, it's a different system, but it is it's never wrong. Yeah. And I've yet to see. And we've been on the wrong side of this a couple of times. Well, technically it's the right side, but decisions that have been minute. And even at that, still being a Liverpool fan in a situation where we're talking millimetres, I still looked at it and went, fair enough. Yeah, like I can't actually remember too many off the top of my head where we went against this, but like I know we did have a few like offsides. Man, actually, yeah. Like it evens out. Like we've had calls like there was a few offside goals that we got let go and stuff, but then there was other ones that probably weren't supposed to be called but were called back. Like people claiming that we got all the good calls last year, and if VAR come in we'd be fucked. But when you looked at, there was actually a study done, and we would have got more points if it was VAR. Yeah, I think the study was there was a 2 or 3 people involved in the study. There was a university, there was a few people, and it did say over the course of the particular season I looked at, I think we would have got plus 12 points or something like that for that season. Yeah, something ridiculous like that. With obvious decisions that would have went. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. We had decisions this year right from the start of last season. West Ham, I think our 4th goal was blatantly offside, and we got away with it. That would have been chalked off. Even not going to go, it's a game that's already dead. People make out like, oh, they scored, that's 3 points it shouldn't have got. But we were already 2 or 3 nil up. We were going to win the game anyway. That's true. The thing that I think is very harsh but correct is offside decisions. Now, it's at a point where we have seen situations where it's an inch, it's 2 inches. There was a couple of incidents during the Women's World Cup recently as well where they have it, like they've got these two lines, a red line and a blue line. I think they're there to show the distance between the front foot of one player and the back foot of another player, something like that. But we're talking inches. Now, is there an argument to say that somebody's foot being ahead of a defender's foot, it's not really an advantage, but if we're going by the letter of the law, it's a goal scoring part of the body that's offside.
Yeah, like it could kind of make a debate as well for whether like offside should only be in the final third, let's say. Like if you're 3 inches ahead of the player just inside the halfway line, it's not much of an advantage. If you're in the box, it is a big advantage. So like there is a lot of, you could discuss that as well.
And then there's the side of it that the lino has to wait to put his flag up. So we've seen situations that have gone on for 7 or 8 seconds, which doesn't sound like much, but in football is an eternity.
Especially when you know it's off, and you can see clearly from even watching on TV, you could see it was off.
Yeah, and you've seen like goalkeepers then come rushing out, or defenders coming in to make a last-ditch tackle. The situations that will lead to a player being injured here, whether it's pulling up from a hamstring or it's a collision, it will lead to an injury, an unnecessary injury.
Yeah, it's a bit stupid. Yeah, it has to be. Like the whole thing of letting it go to just look back, and I think wasn't there some rule where every single goal is going to be checked next season?
Yeah, every single goal automatically gets checked by VAR, and the one incident that springs to mind was the one where Trent pulled it back from like say 5 or 6 yards away from the byline, pulled it back to the edge of the 18-yard box against Barcelona. Gini scored, went back to the halfway line. Hendo was all hyped up and ready to go, and the referee was saying, "Hang on, I'm checking something." And Hendo's going, "What are you checking?" Like he pulled it back. There's no way. There's no way. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Sorry, I couldn't think of you saying Trent pulling it back, but I was thinking the Origi goal either.
Oh well, yeah, that was beautiful. Sorry, yeah, it did lead to why you came at number 6. It did indeed. Any other instance really around VAR that you want to talk about, or any other bits and pieces that we've probably missed out on a few things here, but I think it's fair to say people are still divided on whether it's going to be implemented. Actually, we haven't had a chat about the officiating in the Premier League and how they're going to implement VAR. So we know that there's going to be a team of officials sitting, I think, on the outskirts of London somewhere in an office, and if there's 7 Premier League games on, say, on a Saturday at 3 o'clock, they're covering them all at once. There's no set of officials for every individual game. There's not going to be people inside Anfield or the Etihad or Old Trafford or wherever it might be sitting there and doing the decisions for that game. For me, you said to me when we were talking earlier on before we started recording that, what if there's a couple of penalty incidents or something that pop up at the same time?
Yeah, it seems a bit ridiculous. Like there's billions in the Premier League now. How can they not afford to pay a couple more officials? Like why is this down to these 3 people like who could literally be at the other end of the country to look at? Is
there a shout for non-referees to be involved in some of these decisions? Even let's say you had a panel of a referee, 2 referees and 2 ex-pros there. Even if it's just for advice to the referees, and obviously these would have to be very non-biased ex-pros, but players that have played the game, players that can maybe say to the referee, especially from a defensive point of view, like handballs, things like that, or I don't know, there's too much of the machismo involved in the sport for me. I know that sounds weird, but one thing I noticed during the Women's World Cup was I found that the lady officials were more willing to stand there and explain to a player what they'd done wrong, why they were doing this, where sometimes I find with male referees there's too much bravado involved. Is how dare you stand up in front of me?
I was thinking of Mike Dean. It's just like he has to be the man. He makes a decision. That's it. I'm the man. I'm the centre of attention here. That kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if maybe for a red card decision or something like that, maybe if having an ex-pro there, just to bounce ideas off, even in the like. Obviously, he'd have to be fully trained up, and he'd have to get to the level not of a referee, but for VAR, he'd have to be fully trained in the system and understand that. And I know it's going to be hard because if you have a defender, a former defender, they're probably going to lean to the defender side. If you have an attacker, they're probably going to lean to the attacking side. But even if it's just in the consultation process of training the officials, I think that there should be somebody there to explain what it's like on the game side, from the playing side of it.
But still, rules are rules. Like, there is no, you say bounce ideas back and forth. There shouldn't be any ideas. It should be either yes or no. It's a foul, it's not. It's offside, it's not.
That's the beauty of VAR in football. It isn't always going to be black and white. There's going to be...
But like the more people you add to the decision, the more complicated it gets. Because like
It's a fair point.
if the two of us looked at the decision, I might think it was a bit unfair. You might think it was blatant. Then we just stand there arguing for ages and still no clear decision.
Yeah, there's been a few things where I've looked at it and gone, well, that's offside. And we can see in the television it's offside within 3 or 4 seconds. Well, they say 10 seconds of a replay, but here we are 80 seconds, 90 seconds later, and the referee's still giving it this, holding onto his ear. It should be very clear. Like it is taking too long. Absolutely. I don't know how they can speed that up. I don't know the process. I'm not in the room, but when it comes to certain things as well, the penalty incidents and stuff, sometimes you see the referee take 2 minutes to listen, and then he goes over to his little
why
screen.
not just go look straight away?
Yeah.
Kill time way quicker.
Exactly. Like the referee, I think, can only be advised that an error was made for a penalty, let's say, so he has to go and check it. I don't know if they can say, yep, that's a penalty.
Or even the whole thing of him having to jog across the whole pitch to get to the screen. Could you not have to have like a phone or a tablet on him or something? Like even just the time it takes for him to get the whole way across.
I'm envisioning a little remote control car now coming whizzing onto the pitch with a little screen for the referee to have a look at. I like that he goes off the pitch actually because it stops players getting near him. And
that as well, I suppose.
One of the officials, I think the fourth official, stands there to make sure that the coaches or the players can't get near him. Again, it comes back when the referees look at these things. I want everything looked at full speed. I don't like things being slowed down. Everything looks worse slowed down.
Yeah.
Every single tackle, every single
maybe slow down
handball.
a bit, but not slow down to like way too slow. Because like I said, everything looks horrific in slow motion.
Well, when the ref's going over to have a look at the board, it's usually for a penalty.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a tackle or it's going to be a handball, and I just think it has to be looked at in full speed for a handball because even a brush off your hand, like a glance in slow motion, looks bad.
Yeah. Yeah, because like if balls comes flying at your arm, you're not going to move, like kind of thing.
The other part of this we haven't spoken about is the fan and the average fan that goes in the pub with their mates. They feel like they have that moment of an initial goal being scored and the pause of celebration, and then they have the debate possibly being taken out of the sport. Do you buy into that, or do you think there's still going to be arguments?
Well, I think the fact that we're sitting here talking about this arguing over for the last 15 minutes kind of shows there's still stuff to argue over. Like
that's true.
But I kind of get it. Like even say if you score a goal now and you thought it might have been offside, you're there kind of doubting the back of your head. You're not fully celebrating until about a minute later. Like it just kind of takes away the hype of it, the fun of it.
Yeah, it really does. And I remember watching the AFCON, and it's still ongoing as we record this, but I remember hearing that they were only bringing in VAR from the quarterfinals of a tournament. Like it's not like a Champions League tournament where they decided, we're bringing in VAR for the quarterfinals. Here's two months' notice. Yeah. It's literally like during the tournament that's taking place, only from the quarterfinals onwards. Like,
what's the point? Like,
it's absolutely madness. Like, it's you either use it or you don't. The stadiums either have the technology or they don't. And if they don't, should they be hosting the competition, or should VAR be used at all in these? Like, I know we're kind of veering away from the Premier League, but the conversation here is around VAR as a whole. Madness. And then you've got the Championship. So they call the Championship playoff the richest game in world football. Well, I don't know. Are they going to use VAR in the Championship playoff final? And if they do, what about the teams who might have missed out on a playoff because of a contentious decision? Where do you draw the line? Like, where is there enough money to have VAR in stadiums?
Yeah, I just don't think VAR is going to work. I personally just don't think it will. I think it'll get a bit better, I think, and I don't know if they'll stick with it or not though.
There are a couple of people who are probably rubbing their hands together at the thoughts of VAR, and that are television companies and potential sponsors, because we know it's only a matter of time before VAR decision is being brought to us by Budweiser or Rolex or I don't mean to pull out those brands in particular, it's just two of the biggest brands that came to my mind. Like, so yeah, it's not going to be long before maybe it's to use to Americanise. Is that a fair way of describing
American
it?
Football, even UFC and stuff that way, it's just ads everywhere. Every single thing that happens is sponsored.
It's like the VR, like okay, UFC is probably another really good one because the move of the fight has been brought to you by blah, blah,
this
blah.
replay is brought to you by, like, it's just ridiculous. It's so much.
And it's going to happen because every year television companies are going to have, every year, every time that they renew their leases or their deals with the Premier League, they're going to have to up the money.
Yeah.
So to do that, they're going to have to find ways to increase that revenue, and it's only so far they'll be able to push subscribers from Sky or BT, and now Amazon have come in as well into the party because Apparently Amazon needed to get sports games in December I think it's only December as well.
Stupid.
And then in the UK, I think there's a company called 11 as well. So if you want to have them, you've got to have that. And it's getting to a point where fans are just getting sick of monetization coming into the sport. Players getting crazy money, and it all comes back on the fans. And it's going to happen. It is going to happen with VAR, where we're going to have an ad break. We're going to have a decision, and it's probably going to, and you're never going to get the time added on as well, which is something that always bugs me. You never get the amount of time added on that it takes, regardless. Like, something's forgotten about. So let's say there's a few VAR decisions in a game where the referee has to go to his ear, and let's say there's 4 substitutions in a game and a couple of injuries. Are you going to get 8-9 minutes of time added on?
The game go on forever. You couldn't.
There's so many unknowns about this that I think it's something that they're just going to trial and error.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's very much, okay, this is a decent idea, let's just throw it in, see how it goes, fix everything as it goes along, and that just doesn't work.
And they've thrown in a load of new rules on top of that as well, with the substitutions. Now you can leave the pitch at the nearest point of exit. Goal kicks no longer have to leave the 18-yard box. Attacking players can't be within 1 metre of a wall for a free kick. And then you've got that to come in, so you've got fans that get used to that. And now you've got fans inside a stadium. And we haven't even spoken about the big screens, actually. Premier League are going to show replays of incidents inside the stadiums, which is sound. At Spurs showing a new stadium, at the Emirates, at West Ham's. Where do you put it at Anfield?
Like, do they actually show the replays or just like the decision process?
I think they're going to show replays. I remember seeing the word replay.
Do they not show them so they won't cause trouble in the crowds?
No, that's I think why it was contentious. I think they're going to show the replays inside the stadium.
That just doesn't seem a good idea.
I know what you're probably thinking of, like a screen with the blue VAR decision pending kind of thing, like, or under review.
Yeah, or like another way, like you can just see the ref like talking to his ear, and you see talking about I think there was a handball.
It was really funny when City got knocked out because of VAR. It was really funny, yeah. I know there was a kid that was really upset about it. It's always sad to see that, 60, but you know, rules are rules, and VAR did fuck over Manchester City I know we did win it for the 6th time. We're not bragging. Facts are facts. You're right, 60. Sorry, Conor.
Just saying no fact there, yeah.
He is.
Can't remember what I was talking about now, but yeah, that's...
The screen, we were talking about whether the replays come in or whether it'll just be VAR under review or that type of thing, and where the fuck they're going to put it inside Anfield.
Yeah, because like I just don't see putting up like, I don't know, say Liverpool are playing Man City and City defender like cleans Mane out of it, like that's just going to cause trouble, like especially if it looks bad and it's not given. That's going to cause so much trouble, like. The
thing, we'll probably finish up this by one thing about VAR we both like and one thing that we both hate. So, for me, I don't like the offsides. I think it's almost impossible to judge when the ball leaves a player's foot to play it through.
Yeah, like if the ball's here, is it when the foot hits the ball or when the ball starts to move?
And when we're talking about a fraction of a second, you're talking about the difference between the player's running motion being maybe one leg further than the defender's leg, therefore it's offside. Like, so how do we know and how do you get that? I'm absolutely sound that they're getting the lines right. I think that they've sat down with mathematicians and worked that out, but I've never been confident of when the ball leaves. So let's say, for instance, we signed Fekir, and Fekir's playing in that nice little hole in the 10 there, and he threads the ball through to Mo Salah. When does the ball leave his foot? Like, are we confident that I'm not confident that they're going to get that right.
The exact millisecond, like.
I'm not confident it's humanly possible to get that right, like, even with slow motion cameras, which will take more time if that's what we're doing to make sure we get that exact moment.
It's very nitpicky, doesn't it?
It is, but it's a huge, if we're talking about a foot being ahead of the defender, it could be the stride and where they are in their strides.
You could look at every decision.
I don't know why I'm doing this, people don't understand what legs work like, but
like you can look at every decision probably and say, is it just a fraction off or in or whatever, like so much stuff you could go in on if you really want to.
So that's my negative on it. My positive on it is I like the mistaken identity part of it. So if the referee accidentally...
How often does that even happen?
Very, very rarely. Very rarely, and it's not a reason to bring the system in.
And like you don't need that. Like if say, was it Chamberlain and Gibbs, the one gets sent off and the other did their thing. Like the player should be able to say to the ref, that wasn't him, that was him. He'd say, yeah, it was me, right, fine, you go off then.
Okay, well I'm going to give you an example right now. Let's say, for instance, we had Ben Woodburn on the pitch, and we had who else can I use as an example here? We had Ben Woodburn on the pitch, and we had James Milner, and one of them was getting sent off. But they're sending off Ben Woodburn, but it was James Milner's tackle.
You're saying send off the worst player, like.
Yeah, that's probably like. I mean, let's be honest. Like, it is about winning. Are you speaking up in that situation? If one of you, if the player that's more influential to the game isn't getting sent off as a player,
but again, that's subjective. Who do you think is more influential? Like,
yeah, I was trying not to pick a black player or to pick an Asian player, or I was just trying not to be so clear, because you spoke about Chamberlain and Gibbs, and I'm just thinking, right, I'm not going down that road because I don't want to be stereotyping, and I don't want to be accusing referees of anything along those lines. So I was just trying to pick.
Yeah,
and then I realised that we don't really have many
players look similar,
uberly talented, similar looking. Yeah, like obviously I could have said if Emre Can was there and it was Emre Can or Simon Mignolet, they look so similar. Like,
it's different jerseys and everything.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's mine. They're the two things that I like and dislike about it. What for you? Two things: 1 plus, 1 minus.
One like would be just getting more calls right. Because I think there is, like you said, refereeing is just shocking in the Premier League. Like, I don't know if I trust VAR to even fix that, because it's still the same idiot refs looking at it to fix it. Or like, I know it's a panel in London or whatever, but they still have to go and look at the screen and make the last decision. So I don't know if I still trust them on that. But dislike is just, it just kind of takes away from the game. I think it just slows it down, takes a lot of the debate out of it. It's just, it seems more fun without it, to be honest.
I don't like saying VAR or VAR. I don't like that there's a difference. It's like Euro or Euros. These things piss me off. And like Adidas. Like, I'm somebody, as you know, that floats between saying Adidas and Adidas. Do you say VAR or do you say VAR?
I say both.
Exactly. So we can't even have a definitive on the name of the thing that we're arguing about or we're discussing.
Yeah.
I think that just sums it up perfectly. It's probably a good way down this little conversation. Look, as always, ladies and gentlemen, we may have missed stuff on this. We don't claim to be experts. We're just a couple of fans sitting here having a conversation. We'd love to know what your thoughts are on VAR or VAR, whichever way you want to go. But when you're spelling it, it's sound, because it's just, one way.
Surely someone spelled it wrong still somehow.
There will, yeah. Somebody be auto-corrected or something like that. We'd love to know your thoughts on it as well. And thank you, as always, for watching and tuning into the channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. As I said, comment below on the notifications. Turn the notifications in the comment section. Turn the notifications on. Do all of the stuff that every YouTuber says to you every single time they're ending a video. But look, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Conor for joining me. And up the motherfucking Reds.
I think 60 as well.